Hi, Jessica Nadav bringing you this week's Devar Torah for Parashat Devarim. As usual, I'd like to dedicate this Devar Torah for the refuah shalom of my mother, Simcha Violeta bat Miriam, Erich Yitzchak ben Miriam, Chava Freidel bat Etita Malka, Harav Shimon ben Sarah, and Shemuel Yosef ben Rachel, and of course in the merit of all our Chayalim and Chayalot, our soldiers. The Kadosh Baruch Hu should keep them safe and sound and bring them home safely. Now this week we start the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, the fifth and final book of the Torah, which comprises Moshe's final speech to Bnei Israel and contains a repetition of the Ten Commandments, as well, with a few differences, of course, and as well as the Shema prayer. But that's for next week's reading. I will deal with that next week. Today I'd like to consider the meaning of the word Devarim, which literally means words. It also means things, but it means words. In one of the last week's parashiot, Matot, you remember last week we had a double parasha. So in last week's, one of the last week's parashiot was Matot. And in that parasha we are commanded to take our vows and our oaths very seriously indeed. Bnei Israel are a people who are about to build a free society in a new land based on a covenant between the people and God. The people's commitment to this is voluntary. They voluntarily want to do what God has commanded them to do. The fact that our entire society is based on a covenant underlines the importance of words. The world, of course, as we know, was spoken into existence by the Almighty. Everything in the world was given a name, i.e. a word. It's the divine gift, together with free will, that was given to us as human beings that distinguishes us from animals. I may have mentioned it at the time, but we all remember the chaos of the Tower of Babel and the chaos that the words or the lack of words caused. That happened in the beginning of the book of Bereshit, of Genesis, where we use our words and our free will improperly, chaos ensues. So as Rabbi Sachs, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, said, when we bind ourselves by words, we are using language not to describe, but to create an orderly future out of the chaos of human instincts and desires. He points out, of course, that other animals also communicate with some form of language, but we use language to bind our future behavior so we can form bonds and trust with other human beings. That's what distinguishes us from animals. They use their language, so to speak, to communicate what's immediate. We can use it to form future things. And Rabbi Sachs uses the example of promises, of marriage, and of course our covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This ability to create with words something that wasn't there before, as opposed to just a descriptive thing, is what links us to God. And as I've mentioned previously, this is what makes us partners in creation. Now, as we know, and as I've said before, Hashem brought the physical world into existence through the spoken word. And we are able to create a solid, free, trustworthy, and good society through the spoken word. So Hashem can create the physical world, and we can create the society through the spoken word. Now, what I find very interesting indeed, if not ironic, is that the whole book of Devarim, of Deuteronomy, comprises speeches from Moshe Rabbeinu, the man who introduced himself in Parashat Vayera, in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus, as not a man of words, slow of speech and of slow tongue. As I mentioned then, when we discussed that, Moshe in this book doesn't stop talking. Now, I returned from a Rebbitzins conference in Munich last week, and I met a fantastic, wonderful group of women, committed, dedicated women. And we discussed, amongst many, many other things, how we deal with crises, how we deal with people in crisis, how we teach, how we inspire, how we help, how we encourage. All those things, I note, requires the proper, correct, careful, and often very measured use of words. We can create people and worlds with words, but we can also destroy people and worlds with words. That's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? I'm sure I don't have to give examples. I'm sure it's very clear to you that we're all too aware of the positivity and indeed the negativity and damage that can be caused by the use of words, and how, especially in this day and age, words can be converted into a truth, in inverted commas, that never even existed. So we're now in the midst of the mourning period in the Jewish calendar known as the 9 days, a very sorrowful time for Jewish people, leading to the fast of Tisha B'Av, in which we commemorate the destruction of the temple and the destruction of Jerusalem. The Talmud relates that our troubles at the time of the destruction of the temple and Jewish life in the Holy Land were caused by careless or malevolent speech. We mourn now the destruction of our temple and Jerusalem, our home, our stability. We feel adrift, we feel alone, we feel gloomy. This is the time to remember our hidden power, our unity, and our ability to unite as one family. It is time to use our words for comfort, for friendship, to build trust, to build unity, to build closeness in anticipation of the rebuilding of and our return to our temple and Jerusalem as a united nation. May it be so speedily nowadays. Shabbat Shalom.